I read 103 books this year so far, and I'm going to tell you which ones are the best. Buckle up. Hello beautiful people of the internet, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and I'm so excited you've joined me today. Like I just told you, we're going to be talking about my top 23 of 2023. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you guys about these books because these books are it. I had a pretty good reading year this year. I discovered a lot of new favorites and some that I won't ever pick up again. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Starting off strong with number 23, I'm kind of cheating just a little bit because I've actually not even finished this book. Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. Oh my goodness, let's just let the tabs speak for themselves. Yep. I'm not going to go too in depth with this one because I have a whole reading vlog that's going to come out for this one, but I do want to make it clear that I could not have this list without this book on it, and I'm only halfway through. If you're not aware, Lauren Asher is well known for her beautiful billionaire books, and this is a brand new series that she just started, which is the Lakefront Billionaire series. This one follows Julian and Dahlia, and Julia and Dahlia went from friends to lovers to enemies, and now they can't stand each other. Such a good one. There are so many parts in this book where I have literally been kicking my feet and screaming out loud, and that's all I'm going to say about it because I actually have a vlog coming out for just this book. Just know that it was definitely good enough to be put on this list, even though I'm not finished with it. Coming in at number 22 is actually a book that I just finished a couple weeks ago, and that is The Bridge by Karen Kingsbury. Know this. 1, this is a Christian fiction with such a precious romance. And 2, this book is a sob fest. Just be prepared if you get this recommendation from me. Make sure that you are very heavily prepared with tissues. This book follows Charlie and his wife as they struggle to keep their bookshop open. And this bookshop is beloved in the town of Franklin, Tennessee, and a lot of people are upset about it, including Charlie and his wife. And then you're getting the perspective of Charlie and his wife, but you're also getting the perspective of these two teenagers that are now adults that actually used to meet at the bridge to kind of secretly flirt and secretly fall in love with each other. And now those teenagers are adults, and you're following Charlie as he's trying to keep this bookshop afloat, as well as these two adults that are trying to make their way back to each other. Oh man, oh man, oh man. Just know that there is some hard-hitting things in this book, and if you have anything that bothers you in books, just be aware of that because there is a scene in here that is really, really incredibly hard to read, but this one is so good. Coming in at number 21, I am just as shocked as you are. Holly by Stephen King. Yes, this is my first Stephen King of all time, and yes, I absolutely loved it. First of all, Stephen King is well known for his writing, and for a very good reason, because his writing is top-notch. So this one in particular follows our main character, Holly. And Holly is a private investigator put on this case to find this missing daughter. Well, this whole book you're getting the perspective of Holly as well as this elderly couple. This elderly couple in this story has a lot of issues, my friend. Stephen King is not afraid to go there and get the postcard and come back, okay? Just be aware of that. 5 stars. Number 20 has got to be The Family Game by Catherine Stedman, especially the audiobook version. Like I said, I did not physically read this book. I listened to it because the audiobook is an absolute piece of art. So this one is following our main character who is marrying into this wealthy family, and this family likes to play games. Mind games, physical games, all sorts of games. And upon meeting, her soon-to-be father-in-law hands her a tape recording. And what I love most about this tape recording is that in the audiobook you can actually hear the crackling of it, and you can actually hear the tape recording being played. And what she finds on this tape recording is very, very sinister and kind of leads to multiple things, and people start dying and all sorts of good stuff. Yes, I did figure out the ending. Did it taint my enjoyment of it in the slightest? no. And this is one of the only times where I figured it out and it didn't take my excitement, just because it was done so incredibly well. And it was more so like a slow burn going into the ending, but I absolutely ate it up and I totally recommend it. Number 19 is a pretty controversial book because either most people hate this book or most people absolutely love it, and that is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I have heard very mixed reviews on this book. I am part of that crowd that absolutely adores it. I absolutely love this book. So this one is following our main characters Anastasia and Nate, and they both attend the same university. Anastasia is on the figure skating team, whereas Nate is on the hockey team. He is the captain, I might add. And this is just a fun little fluffy romance. Honestly, if you take it too seriously, then I feel like you're not gonna like it. But I just went into it with very low expectations and didn't really think too much about it, and absolutely ate it up. I will say that there was more spice in here than I would have preferred, but honestly, I feel like that didn't take away from the story for me. Again, this is a controversial one, but I am one of those ones that absolutely loved it. Number 18, I do physically own, but it's at the bottom of that big stack right there, and I just am not about that. Number 18 is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. Oh, dear heavens. Taylor Adams does so well at what he does. I'm just gonna say that right now. This one in particular follows our main character who's very alone. She's very isolated. All she has is the communication between her and her neighbor through her window. And she's a huge reader, like us, and she's reading a really, really bad thriller one day, and she puts a 1-star review on this book and then immediately gets texted or DM'd by this author. And this author is very aggressive towards her 1-star review and asks her to take it down. And being the strong, independent woman that she is, she said, absolutely not. I didn't love this book, so I'm not going to give it a rating that it didn't deserve. Well, this author takes matters into his own hands when he shows up at her door wearing this really freaky mask. Guys, this book takes place over that night as she's trying to escape this psychopath of an author. I'll just leave it at that. So good. Number 17 is actually not a singular book. It's a series that I discovered this year, and I just cannot not mention the whole series. And that's the Women's Murder Club series by James Patterson. The first book is called First to Die. Oh my goodness, I consumed all of these audibly. I do not own any of them. If you decide to pick them up, I definitely recommend that you do that audibly. Basically, this is a series that follows a cop that is in San Francisco who has a friend group outside of her work, and basically they talk about these cold cases and they try and solve them. Honestly, I cannot say enough good things about this series. The friendship dynamic, the romance, the fast-pacedness of it, just chef's kiss, top tier, beautiful. Number 16 is actually a graphic novel, and that is Sheets by Brenna Thumler. Yes, I read this book this year. It's so crazy to think that this was the year that I read this book. It's kind of like a friend that you just meet. You feel like you've known each other forever. Me and this book. This graphic novel is the sweetest graphic novel I've ever read. This book follows our main character, Marjorie, and Marjorie and her family own this laundromat. Well, she loses her mom, sadly, and her dad is just completely stricken with grief, and so it's up to Marjorie to kind of run this laundromat. One day she meets a little friend that is not supposed to be in there, little Wendell, and from there the sweetest little friendship evolves. And honestly, I just love this book for so much more than that. The talk about grief, the sadness in it overall, and the sweet friendship, and just everything about it. The illustrations are absolutely gorgeous. Such a sweet story. Number 15 is a book that honestly I did not know was going to end up on here, and that is Carrie SoDo Is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love this book so much, guys, but this is another one that you gotta be prepared for. Get your tissues. So in this book in particular, we're following our main character, Carrie SoDo, and Carrie SoDo is this world famous tennis player who has retired. Well, it opens up to where she was watching this tennis match with this new girl who seems to be doing really well. And obviously Carrie SoDo gets a little bit jealous and she gets a little bit scared that her title is going to be taken from her. So she decides, hey, I'm going to compete again. And the best part about this book, guys, is that her trainer is her dad. I love that. I love the dad-daughter dynamic in here. I will admit that at some points of this book, I was like, Carrie SoDo, you need to calm it down. But honestly, I think that's just her character, and I think Taylor Jenkins Reid meant to make it like that just because you wanted to root for her, but on the same side, you wanted her to calm down a little bit. I will say that this book is very tennis heavy, but I have no idea about tennis. I have no knowledge of tennis, and that did not take away from the story for me. I feel like Taylor Jenkins Reid did such a good job of kind of simplifying it so that anybody could understand it. So good. Number 14 is actually another book that I didn't expect to be on this list, but that is The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. This has nothing to do with the book, but I read this on my cruise, and just thinking about this book makes me think of that experience, and it just makes it that much better. This book follows our main character, Meredith Fox, and every single year, her and her family go up to Martha's Vineyard for the summer. While they're up there, they're visiting friends and visiting family, and every single year they tend to play this game called Assassin. The element in this book that put it over the top for me is that this summer is different because Meredith has lost her sister. There are just some books that can handle the topic of grief way better than others, and this book is the best interpretation, the best way, the best handle of care that I have found. And that, my friends, sets the bar for me. Next, at number 13, is a book that I really didn't think was going to be on here, and that is Dark Waters by Katherine Arden. This is book number 3 of the Small Spaces series, which is a middle grade series. I really enjoyed books 1 and 2, Small Spaces and Dead Voices. I really liked those, but this one in particular just hit way different. So this series is following a couple of kids who are a friend group, and basically, I don't know why they keep leaving their house, because every time they leave their house, they kind of run into something. I'm not going to give too much away because obviously this is book number 3 and I don't want to spoil the first 2 for you. They just find themselves being caught in some situations that may or may not be run by one singular person who wants to see them. This one, you can only imagine what this one's about. And I'm afraid, deathly afraid of the ocean. This was my favorite book in the series so far. Let's talk about number 12. She Started It by Sean Gilbert. Let me preface by saying this book is not for everybody, okay? And there are lots of triggers in here. Just to let you know, if anything bothers you in books, don't go into this one blind, okay? I'm giving you a forewarning here. Do not go into this book blind. I did, however, but I don't have really anything that bothers me in books, but let me just tell you, some of this was uncomfortable. It was so good. This one follows an adult friend group who hung out as teenagers. Think of the group of girls in high school that were super, super popular, super, super pretty, and wouldn't ever give you the time of day. That's this friend group. Each of them receive an invitation from this girl named Poppy. And the invitation is for her wedding, and they have been chosen to be her bridesmaids. And they're really confused because this friend group used to bully Poppy. Poppy has basically told them that they are going to go on this beautiful excursion where they're going to be on this private island and they're going to be treated as queens. So of course they're gonna go. And let me just tell you, some things start happening. Yeah. Number 11 is a book that I also own, but I can't find it. The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Oh my goodness, I did not expect to love this one as much as I did, and I cannot wait to get my hands on the rest of the series. So this particular book in the series follows a girl who gets an invitation from this really wealthy family and saying that, hey, your grandfather has died and we need you to come and receive your inheritance. And she doesn't really know what to do, but she goes anyway, and she finds herself tangled up in all this family mess, and she's still trying to figure out who these people are. I loved this one. I loved every single one of the Hawthorne brothers. There's one in particular that I like a little bit more, but I'm not going to tell you who it is because I don't know who she ends up with. If she ends up with any of them. I'm not sure if she ends up with anybody. Don't tell me if she does, but just know this is a fun time. Here we go. We're getting into the top 10. These top 10, guys, you can't go wrong with. These are the top 10 books that are my favorites of the year. Coming in at number 10, I actually own this one also, but it's again at the bottom of the stack. We're not gonna go there. Final Offer by Lauren Asher. Yet another Lauren Asher book. Lauren Asher deserves all the things. This is book number 3 of the Dreamland Billionaire series, which is one of my favorite romance series of all time. The series follows 3 brothers who own an amusement park, and this one in particular follows the brother Cal. Cal is my favorite brother, and this was the most anticipated book of the series. In the other 2 books, you were seeing Cal, but Cal was this happy-go-lucky, really happy and exciting golden retriever. But in this book, you kind of dig a little bit deeper behind closed doors, and you see that maybe he is not all that he showed. You can't go wrong with Lauren Asher. Number 9 is a cozy mystery. Yes, I had to include my favorite cozy mystery, and that is Up to No Good by Linda Riley. This one surprised the absolute life out of me. I did not expect to love this book so much. So this one follows our main character, Carly, and let me tell you this, Carly owns a grilled cheese shop. Do you have to know anything else? One day, she finds a dead body in her parking lot. And obviously that's going to put a damper on business. So it's up to Carly to not only save her grilled cheese shop, but to figure out who killed this guy. Oh my gosh, the amount of times in this book that I just was dying for a grilled cheese, I can't count them. So if you don't like grilled cheese, first of all, why? Second of all, probably not the book for you. Coming in at number 8 is book number 2 of the Shatter Me series, Unravel Me. Guys, do I have to tell you what the series means to me? Because I think I'm going to do it again. This series means so much to me, and I will recommend this series to anyone that will listen. In this story, we are not only getting a little bit more into the romance between Aaron Werner and Juliet, but there's so many high stakes in here.
Are you kidding me?
Shatter Me, the very first book, was not my favorite. It's definitely not a great start to the series just because you're getting a lot of character development, but you also meet this like trash boyfriend who Juliet gets. This one, honey, we're getting a lot more Aaron Werner, okay? Let me just let the tabs speak for themselves. Wonderful, gorgeous, absolutely stunning. Number 7 is a cute, fluffy romance that I really didn't expect to love as much as I did, and that is When in Rome by Sarah Adams. Sarah Adams is well known for writing her clean romances, and honestly, she writes cotton candy romances, which are just fluffy and sweet and just perfect. This one is following our main character, Amelia, and Amelia is a pop star in a desperate need of a break. And so she decides that she's gonna go to Rome. Well, she ends up in Rome, Kentucky. And her car breaks down right in front of this guy's house. His name is Noah, and he's the grumpy town's baker. Well, Noah, being the sweet, kind soul that he is, decides to take her in because obviously she has nowhere to go. And Noah, guys, he's grumpy, but is he really? Sarah Adams just knows how to write super fluffy, feel-good romances where honestly you're smiling the whole time. Let's talk about this dang book. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This is the one book this year that completely took me by surprise. Lisa Jewell. I have read a couple by Lisa Jewell and they were okay. This one, I will think about for the rest of my life. Let me tell you what it's about. The main character, her name is Alex, and she is out celebrating her 45th birthday when this woman approaches her. And she's like, wow, my birthday is today too, and I'm also turning 45. Like, hey, you're my birthday twin. And Alex just thinks that, oh, that's so nice, that's great. And they go about their lives. Well, a couple days later, Josie, the girl who approached Alex, finds Alex again, creepy, and approaches her and asks her about her job. Well, Alex is a podcaster, and she allows victims and other women who want to just share their story to come on her podcast. And Josie approaches her and says, hey, I have a story that I want the world to know, and will you please let me record it? And Alex says, sure, let's go do that. That's all I'm going to tell you about it. That is it. That is all I'm going to tell you. Listen to this audibly and have the physical book. That is the only way that you should consume this book. Just trust me. Now we're getting into the top 5, guys. These books are it. Number 5. Cackle by Rachel Harrison. I read this fall. I just love this book so much. This book is following our main character, Annie, and Annie is a teacher, and she decides that she's gonna up and move because she's had a rough time and she's gonna go move somewhere different. When she gets there, she doesn't know anybody and she walks into the shop, and so does this woman named Sophie. And Sophie just has this presence about her. She's well known and people love her. She has this presence that Annie seems to be lacking. And so Sophie decides to take Annie under her wing, and then things ensue. Let me just tell you, the friendship in here, top notch. This is considered cozy horror because there is a couple scenes in here that if you have a weak stomach, I would probably be aware of that. I absolutely adored this one. Absolutely ate it up. I loved it. I loved how cozy it was, and I loved how good it made me feel. It just made me feel all warm and cozy. I don't know if you've noticed this, but most of these books I have tabbed the heck out of. And this next one is no different. The Bodyguard by Catherine Sinner. Catherine Sinner is a brand new author to me. I have never read anything by her, and this was such a good start. So this one, yes, is about a bodyguard, but he is not the bodyguard. She is. This is following our main character, Hannah Brooks, and Hannah Brooks works at this protection agency where she is a bodyguard for these famous people. Well, she gets put on this assignment to kind of take care of this singer-songwriter, Jack Stapleton. Jack Stapleton is the biggest cinnamon roll I've ever read. The element that put this romance over the top for me is the banter. My favorite thing about romance books is when an author can make a romance so intriguing and so good without adding any kind of spice. That just goes to show you that romances do not need all that extra stuff to be absolutely wonderful. We're getting into the top 3. The Only One Left by Riley Sager. You guys know how I feel about Mr. Sager. Mr. Sager is my favorite author of all time. This is his newest release that he came out with in June, and I actually got to meet him for this release, and he signed it. I don't know if you guys watched my Riley Sager vlog. I will leave a link to it up here, but basically I met him. I drove 8 hours to meet him in Pennsylvania, and when I got there, he's a huge Swiftie fan, and I made myself and him matching friendship bracelets. And he was like, "Oh, that is so sweet." And he signed my book, To Hannah, My Best Swiftie Buddy by Riley Sager. I will cherish this book forever. Again, this is another book that the tabs kind of speak for itself. I absolutely went to town on this book. If you don't know, Riley Sager writes thrillers, and he is mostly famous for his twists because his twists are off the wall. Honestly, this one, I got a little bit of whiplash because there were so many twists, but I was eating them up with a fork and a spoon. So there is a really, really creepy rhyme in here. Honestly, nothing I say could outdo this rhyme, so I'm just gonna read you the rhyme. At 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope, stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It wasn't me, Lenora said, but she's the only one not dead. Super atmospheric, super creepy, and super good. Okay, we're getting into the final 2. Coming in at number 2 is a book that completely took me by surprise, and there is not a day that goes by that I do not think about this book. And that is The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. I just love and adore this book so much. This is another book that I consumed audibly, but again, obviously that didn't taint my enjoyment of it. I do not own the book physically, and I would totally recommend the audiobook. So this one is following our main character, Alice, and this book takes place in the Depression era in Kentucky, and Alice is marrying into this wealthier family, and obviously it was rare to be wealthy, so you were kind of looked highly upon. The book starts out where they're in a town meeting, and her father-in-law and her husband are both really high members of this town. And a woman gets up and she starts talking about this new idea of a mobile library. Obviously, there are a lot of people that are completely against it. Again, this was the Depression era. They kind of feel like if women are educated, then they will overthrow the men. And so there are a lot of negative talk about this library. Well, the woman starts asking for volunteers, and Alice raises her hand to volunteer. and the mobile library comes to this town and Alice is a part of it. There is also this other woman named Marjorie that works the library, and Marjorie and Alice start this beautiful friendship that honestly is the best friendship that I have ever read in a book. This book made me sob because it's a very character-driven book. There's really not a whole lot happening, but guys, let me just tell you, the character development, the way that Jojo Moyes makes us fall in love with these characters, oh my gosh. It will make you laugh. It will make you smile. It will make you sob. It's such a good one. Okay, this comes to no surprise to anybody who has been watching my channel over the past couple of months or the past year. I've talked about this series so much, I feel like a broken record. So I'm gonna stop right now and I want you to put in the comments your guess to what you think my favorite book of the year was. I'll give you just a second. Okay. My favorite book of the entire year, and the book that is now my favorite book of all time. You ready? Ignite Me by Tara Mafi. I know. Oh my heavens. You know how I told you in Unravel Me we were starting to get a little bit more of Juliet and Warner? Woo! Let me back up. Let me tell you what the Shatter Me series is, just in case you don't know what it is. It's a fantasy dystopian YA story that is following this girl named Juliet. And Juliet has these special powers where if you touch her, you die, because she has a lethal touch. And she's basically used for all these science experiments, and she's kind of locked away in an asylum, kind of isolated from everybody else. This guy named Aaron Warner finds her, and Aaron Warner is a very high up individual. He is one of the district leaders of this dystopian. So he's very, very important. He's very important. And Aaron Warner is deciding that he wants to use Juliet to kind of help his cause. And Juliet is like, absolutely not. I'm not going to help you. I don't believe in all that. As the books go on, Juliet and Aaron become closer. This book, guys, I could stop the series right here. This book gives you so much of Juliet and Warner, and so much of Warner, that it just makes me want to it makes me want to cry. Look at these tabs. That is an unhealthy amount of times where I was screaming, crying, kicking my feet in the air for this fictional man. What can I say? Aaron Warner, honey, it's me and you. There you have it, my friends. That was my top 23 of 23. I am so happy that you joined me for today's video. Hopefully you made it to the end. If you did, go ahead and leave me your favorite book of the year. I'm super curious to see what everybody picked. All right, my friends, until next time, bye.